Some movies are remembered because they're beloved. Others are remembered because they were so strange, so bold, or so wild that they left a permanent mark. The Toxic Avenger is one of those movies. Released in the 1980s, it wasn't a blockbuster or a work of art by traditional Hollywood standards. It was weird, bloody, and absolutely insane. But that's exactly why it became a cult classic. The story of a weak, bullied janitor who falls into toxic waste and becomes a mutated superhero. With a mop, it was ridiculous and, yet, it meant something. For the people who fell in love with it, The Toxic Avenger was more than just body horror and slapstick gore. It was a symbol. A movie that said even the most broken, misunderstood people had the power to fight back. And now, after nearly 40 years, The Toxic Avenger is making a comeback. The reboot is real. It exists. And it features none other than Peter Dinklage in the lead role. But fans everywhere are asking the same question. When will it finally be available to stream? The road to this reboot has been anything but easy. It was first announced back in 2019, and for a while, it seemed like nothing was happening. Between studio delays, the global pandemic, and quiet behind-the-scenes shifts, fans were left wondering if the movie had been canceled. But then, almost out of nowhere, everything changed. Filming had been finished. The cast included big names like Peter Dinklage, Kevin Bacon, and Elijah Wood, and critics lucky enough to see early screenings said it was wild, funny, gory, and emotional. Everything a good Toxic Avenger movie should be. But even after trailers and posters started surfacing, there was no confirmed streaming release date. Some fans guessed it would drop on Max, while others hoped it would go to horror platforms like Shudder. Rumors swirled for months, and every time a release window passed, people got more frustrated. Why was the studio holding back? The truth is, streaming releases are complicated. Nowadays, movies can hit theaters, streaming platforms, or both, depending on what gives the best chance at success. And because early reactions to the Toxic Avenger reboot were so positive, the studio may have decided to save it for a better moment, one that would give it more attention. Not just an anonymous drop in the middle of the week now. Based on what insiders are saying, it looks like we're finally getting close. The new plan appears to be a late October 2025 release, right in time for Halloween. The goal is to give it a limited theatrical run in select indie theaters and horror festivals. Think midnight movie showings at your local drive-in or Halloween marathons at cult theaters. Then, after that brief run, it's expected to premiere exclusively on Max. It's the kind of release that fits perfectly with what Toxic Avenger represents. Not a polished, overhyped Marvel spectacle, but a gritty, unfiltered, bloody good time. And a Halloween release that just makes sense. Add glowing green sludge, a mutant hero, and gallons of fake blood. And what you get is horror gold. And it's not just the release date that has fans buzzing. This reboot isn't a typical remake. From what we've seen so far, director Macon Blair has created something that walks the line between parody and passion. It pays respects to the original while giving it a new voice. Peter Dinklage as a toxic superhero. That's something no one expected, and that's what makes it work. He's not a muscle-bound giant. He's not perfect. And that's exactly what made Toxie iconic in the first place. Dinklage himself said in an early interview that he related to the character because of how human he felt, even when he didn't look human at all. He said, "Toxie's not your traditional hero. He's hurting, he's angry, he's overlooked. T still tries to help others. That's what stuck with me." And that right there is the soul of the story. The Toxic Avenger isn't about saving the world with superpowers and quips. It's about surviving pain and still choosing to fight for something better. That's what connected with audiences in the 80s. And it's what will connect again in this new version. So, to answer the big question, when will the Toxic Avengers stream? The target date is Halloween season, October 2025. It's coming, and it's coming with a vengeance, mop in hand. So, with the streaming release now aiming for October 2025 on Max, the fan anticipation continues to grow. But this isn't just about a date on the calendar. It's about what kind of movie we're actually getting. And from what we know, so far, it's not what most people expected. The original Toxic Avenger was wild. It was chaotic, violent, and incredibly weird, but also strangely touching if you looked past the slime and body parts. This new version keeps that heartbeat, but it upgrades everything around it with a modern twist. Let's start with the heart of the remake, Peter Dinklage as the new Toxie. Now, nobody, and I mean nobody, imagined the Emmy-winning star of Game of Thrones playing a radioactive, mutant vigilante. But after seeing early footage, critics say he brings unexpected depth and emotion. Dinklage plays Winston, a struggling janitor working at a corrupted company in a polluted city, just trying to survive and support his stepson. He's not strong. He's not confident. He's beaten down by life. But after a horrible accident and a dip into a mysterious barrel of toxic waste, something changes. He becomes a mutated version of himself with insane strength, regenerative powers, and a whole lot of anger to work through. It sounds like a superhero origin story, but it's darker, stranger, and a lot more emotional than that. Winston doesn't want to be a hero. He's ashamed of what he looks like. He hides, scared of how people will look at him, how his stepson might see him. But when corporate greed, injustice, and street-level crime push too far, Toxie snaps, and the city starts to bleed. This time, Around the Toxic Avenger dives even deeper into that idea of being unseen, of being different, forgotten, or outright hated by the world around you. It's something a lot of audiences are connecting with, especially now, in a time when people everywhere feel ignored by the systems meant to support them. Governments, healthcare, jobs, schools. It makes sense that a mutant custodian, with a twisted mop and a broken heart, can still find his audience. And director Macon Blair, best known for indie hits like I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, knows how to balance that kind of weird comedy and real-world pain. He doesn't try to make Toxie into a traditional Marvel-style hero. Instead, he leans into the awkwardness, the mess, and the raw emotions. Early viewers said some of the scenes are shockingly touching, including one where Winston, still freshly mutated, finally looks in the mirror and breaks down sobbing. Not because he lost his life, but because the person he was before honestly believed he was nothing. That's the kind of quiet, heartbreaking moment nobody expected from a movie titled The Toxic Avenger. Of course, you can't talk about this movie without mentioning its cast because it's stacked with unexpected but brilliant choices. Elijah Wood plays a villainous character rumored to be inspired by Toxic Avenger's version of the Penguin, twisted, charismatic, and completely off the rails. His costume, described as a blend between rotting aristocrat and demented clown. Then, there's Kevin Bacon, who gives us a corporate baddie straight from an 80s Wall Street nightmare. He's sleazy, smart, and horrifyingly charming, the kind of villain you love to hate. He's the brain behind the toxic waste cover-ups and the one who turned Winston's life into poison. Fans are already calling him one of Kevin Bacon's darkest roles ever. And finally, Jacob Tremblay, the talented young actor from Room and Luca, plays Winston's stepson, the emotional core of the movie. Their bond is what grounds the film. It's not just about revenge. It's about protecting someone who sees the real you underneath, even when you look like a monster. So we've got the cast, we've got the emotion, we've even got the mop. But what about the action? Early reports say this reboot doesn't hold back. The fight scenes are gory, messy, and intentionally over the top. We're talking heads flying through windows, arms getting used as weapons, and villains being not and villains being flushed down literal radioactive toilets. It sounds insane, and it is. But that's part of the point. The Toxic Avenger has always walked the line between parody and punk rock. It's not here to impress critics with clean storytelling. It's here to make you laugh, cry, cheer, and maybe squirm a little. The practical effects are reportedly top tier. Tons of blood, goo, and old-school monster movie magic. Director Macon Blair chose to use real prosthetics and makeup, not just CGI, which is a huge win for fans of the original Troma style. It's gross in the best way. But beyond all the violence and madness, the movie leaves you with something kind of unexpected. Hope. Hope that the broken and flawed still matter. That the world may be filthy and corrupt, but fighting back even in strange, sloppy, imperfect ways is still worth doing. And maybe that's what makes Toxie so timeless. He's not clean. He's not sexy. He might smell terrible, but he cares. And honestly, that's more than most superheroes can say these days. So as we head toward Halloween 2025, the toxic question remains: will people show up to watch this reboot? And, more importantly, will they get it? Only time will tell. But if even one person looks at this movie and thinks, maybe I've been thrown away too, but I'm still here, then Toxie has done his job, in a way. He always has, and for fans who've been waiting for decades to see him mop up evil again, the message is clear. The Toxic Avenger is coming back, and this time you can't look away.